gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night. It's a little bit after 9. We had some technical difficulties getting going here on our new streaming platform. But hey, Steelers fans, it's the off season. It's the dead time. Where else would you rather be? And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Big Bro Scho, how's it going tonight?
It's hot.
Yes, it is. It is hot. Hopefully we got people joining us here. We actually had a problem. We went to go live and we hit go and it didn't go.
It said error.
It said error and then just started recording the show. We're like, we don't want to record the show. We want to go live. So here it is. It's funny because someone said, did I see something where someone said second live of the day? Maybe the other one showed up and it didn't. I don't know what happened. It was wonky with us. Maybe someone else can tell us in the live chat exactly what's going on. But Rich, it's a hot one, but we are here. We are now, double-digit days into the end of minicamp, heading towards training camp. Yeah, I kind of like the no news is good news with the Steelers. Yes. We're going to be getting into 5 wishes that we each have for the Steelers ahead of week 1. These are wishes. I didn't tell you this before the show, but, well, I don't know. I just assumed that this was beyond injury, but maybe you'll put that on yours anyway. So we'll see. We didn't coordinate it that well. But the only real news we have, we had the Deshaun Elliott signing. But one thing I do want to just bring up briefly is, did you catch any of Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show today?
I did not.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I wasn't home. I was driving all over the place with stuff. But I caught the clips that the Pat McAfee Twitter handle specifically shared with Aaron Rodgers. So I got to see a lot of various different things. I'll be honest with you, listening to him talk, I kind of got a little bit excited.
Okay.
Just because it was the whole idea of, he said that the plan is that this is his last season. It's funny, they said bad happened. Huh.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, Jared Neville just said bad went live from his living room, didn't notice for a good amount of time.
He was probably missing. Oh, that's so funny. I can't believe I didn't catch that.
Trying to figure the system out. And didn't realize he was live.
Yes, he did not realize he went live. Because here's what's crazy. Every time I go to do a show now and go to record something, like if I'm going to be recording Pittsburgh Standard Time or Unpopular Opinion, I have to specifically go in and say, don't go live. Normally, with where we were before, we had to switch it to say we were going to do live rather than just a recording. Right. So that's pretty funny. We're all getting used to it. Now I get the joke. That's hilarious. But I listened to some of the clips with Aaron Rodgers. Oh my goodness. He talked glowingly about all of his offensive teammates. Well, I mean, not all of them, but he basically went through position group by position group, talking about people, throwing out, about Zach Frazier and what he's done in only just one season and just all kinds of various things. If you haven't caught it, like I said, you can at least, if you're on social media, you can go to, you could look up the Pat McAfee show and you could just hit the clips. They didn't have any clip that was longer than, none of them. I think some of them might have been 4 minutes, but some of them were less than a minute. But you could see where he talked about various teammates. He talked about the whole thought process of joining the Steelers, really pumping up the one of the premier organizations in the NFL, those kind of things. And now some people, of course, there's always going to be something that you want to take wrong. He kind of went off on a little bit of a rant afterwards. McAfee even said to him, "You feel better?" Because he went off on a rant about private life, and wanting life, wanting to still have a private life. says that he's gonna pull a Kaiser Soze. When he's done, he'll disappear and you'll never see him again. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, of course, he's doing shows like this. And you're like, well, how much of a private life do you want? But I mean, it's just a show. I think it's just when he's not doing other things. Talked about how his new wife, who we don't know anything about her, is a very private person, and he likes to maintain that for her and everything. It was some pretty decent stuff. Sorry that I have to kind of do all the talking here since you didn't get to catch any of it, but it was.
Sorry, so some of us, our job isn't just covering the Steelers.
I know.
Some of us, have a real job. So,
yeah, yes. So, and also, but it's the summertime, dude. You're not that busy. No, I'm just kidding. I know. I'm just kidding. But it was honestly, it got me excited because it's like Aaron Rodgers he's gonna go one more season, one more time. And he talked about talking with Mike Tomlin every week. Lots of fun, glowing stuff even about Danny Smith. Yes, and I mean Danny Smith, special teams coordinator. I didn't mean Arthur Smith. I didn't misspeak. Just because they asked him about Danny Smith, because McAfee being a former punter, he's going to ask about him, and just some various things. And you're just like, wow, he thinks that they can do something this year. So I'm excited. I'm not getting overexcited because I'm not sold that they could, that the Steelers can definitely catch, set the world on fire. But there's nothing saying that this team couldn't get hot and do something. But if they do, I hope that it's not what we've seen too much with the Steelers, and that is get hot early and fizzle late. Hopefully this time we could actually have some heat in December and January when it comes to the Steelers. Do you think that's probably one of the biggest things with this team more than anything is you think even if the Steelers start off well, do you think the fan base is going to be very, let's just wait and see.
Yeah.
We've seen this before.
Believe it or not, I'm probably more likely to feel less worried if the Steelers in their first 4 are 2-2.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they will be. I think I oh my goodness, what was it? I think I threw down a little bit on one of the things on DraftKings. You could say through a bet on how many wins any team has through the first 5 weeks of the season. Well, the Steelers have a bye in week 5. So how many wins will they get in the first 3 weeks? And all of them are plus money, but you got to get it. It's not 2 or more. It's exactly 2. And my goodness, if they have a tie in there, then you're just done. I don't know. Well, they asked wins, so I guess it wouldn't. I guess if you go 3 and they're 3-0-1, I don't know if you'd win that one or not. But anyway, I'd figure for fun I'd throw down a little bit on them going 4-0 to start. Because why not? This is we don't have to hide our homerism. This is just who we are. So and yeah, don't anything else you would like to discuss before we dive into this, or are you ready to go?
You know what? It was really, in terms of Steelers, a pretty slow news week.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, that was kind of a good thing. So yeah. I'm ready to roll whenever you are.
So, hey, and honestly, we're still trying to learn some stuff with the new system, being able to bring up comments. One thing that's kind of frustrating is you have to scroll for the comments to come up, where in the old system that we had for us, they just came up on the bottom automatically. Yeah. So I'm constantly sitting there.
It was self-scrolling.
It was self-scrolling. But, hey, we're learning more. We figured out from the preview last week, I found a way for the music to actually come through. So that's a good thing. But hey, I'm ready to dive into this. We did this one last year. Didn't know. I didn't look back to see what our lists were last year. Honestly, I didn't. Because I didn't need to. Because I didn't want it to affect this one. This is 5 Steeler wishes between now and week 1. I gotta ask: am I off base for saying taking the whole idea of health out of the equation, or or is that still on the table for your list? I don't want to mess you up because I didn't say it.
It is sort of on the table.
Okay.
I have something kind of specific.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get my pencil and paper to write these down because these always make for fun articles that we drop on the weekends then and have a discussion about it. Or later in the week sometime. So I want to make sure I'm writing yours down. So we're going to do what we normally do. We're starting at 5, going up to 1, and we're in order of our importance. So I'm going to say, Rich, you ready to drop your number 5? Steelers wish for week 1. Now, these are also realistic wishes, meaning like I wish that the Steelers would have 10 more Lombardis in their trophy case by week 1 of this year. Yeah, that's not happening. This is what to do for best for the season. You good?
Yes. Okay. Number 5. Let me get the one that you probably would, kind of were steering away from off first thing. Okay. Could we please have no season-ending injuries to any of our rookies this year? Because we've done it each of the last 2.
Yeah. You're saying even specifically to rookies, drafted rookies. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. No season-ending injuries to draft picks. That one's fair because you were very specific with it. Yeah. I like that. That would be nice. It would be nice to not have any season-ending injuries for anybody.
We're going back-to-back years where basically we're getting draft picks that are in their second year or basically having their first year.
Yeah.
And, if we've got some good guys, would like to see them all be able to get out there and develop and not have to spend a year rehabbing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I mean, think about this. How many players did the Steelers not have from last year? It was 4. If you think about it. I mean, are you counting Roman Wilson as one? It wasn't a season-ending injury.
But I mean, we didn't really
see him. Fautanu's was season-ending, going into week 3. Right. You had Logan Lee didn't play at all, and the saddest of them all was the career-ending Ryan Watts.
Yes.
Right? He's the one that I didn't say the wrong name, did I? So someone will tell me. No, that had the neck injury and can't play anymore. I'm pretty sure I said
that being there, but I'm not.
Yeah. So, it's the last. I mean, my goodness, they had enough last year to last them 5 years. So hopefully they can go this year without any of those. So you ready for my number 5?
If you're going second, then yes.
Yes. Well, I don't know who else would go second. You might think I'm crazy for having this as number 5, but I have it as number 5 because it's something
you might think I'm crazy.
I'm not as worried about because I really have faith in the process. But believe it or not, my number 5 is get that contract extension for TJ Watt by week 1. I had it on my list, but pretty low on my list because a lot of people were freaking out over it. I am not one of those people. I'm not worried about that whole thing with all that. So I wanted to at least mention it, but that's where I put it.
I'm not going to talk about that yet.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
About that in a little while.
And people are confirming that I did say the right name. I would have felt really bad if I said the wrong name of someone that was done, had to retire due to injury. But yeah, so some people were just saying, anyone talk about bad going live?
Yeah.
I want to make sure. See, look, I can bring these. I got to make sure I can bring them up.
You can bring them up.
I can bring them up. Yes,
that's cool.
Yes. Now, here's the thing. If I don't click on something else, I'm going to get used to this because they're on a timer. They don't stay up. So I have no idea if we're capable of taking super chats anymore or not. And if we are, I don't even know how it would show up. So Just putting that out there to people right now because I don't even know. So, but yeah. So you want to come back and talk about that? You ready for your number 4 then?
Yes. All right. My number 4 wish. Now you're going to see in my list as I go through my list. I take into account likelihood of things happening. So you'll understand when you see my list as a whole.
Okay.
Okay. It's not totally about likelihood of things happening, but the more likely I think something is to happen, it actually added more weight to it. So, or help things even make my list. So my number 4 wish is that Aaron Rodgers settles in quickly. Meaning he gets a good grasp of the offense, a good grasp of the personnel, and we're not having to spend 5 weeks of the regular season before we can take the training wheels off.
Yeah. Gotcha. It's funny. We might not have any overlap in this list because it's really kind of how you view different things. So I didn't bring up Aaron Rodgers specifically with that because believe it or not, I'm like, it is what it is there. I don't expect there, that's a good way to put it. I didn't know what else would have been a better way to say it. So,
because he's coming in, he's going to get the starting reins, but he didn't really get to show off anything in minicamp, which didn't bother me. But that means he better be working with Arthur Smith, getting his playbook down, getting the verbiage down, getting things down, because I want him to hit the ground running when training camp starts.
Yes.
Because if you don't hit the ground running when training camp starts, then, as I like to say, the training wheels are still on come week 1. And we're not we can't go multiple weeks of training wheels in the regular season. We need to be firing on all cylinders.
Yes. I agree with that. Being able to hit the ground running. That's a good thing. And honestly, I see what you mean, how you're saying it's low on the list, because it might have a higher likelihood of you expecting it to happen anyway. So I kind of did mine on a little bit of how important I think they are. And my number 4 is that the Steelers need something to emerge, whether it's through continuing to add personnel or players that they have stepping up. But the Steelers really need some better depth on the offensive line. Their offensive line depth is very sketchy. I've said it a number of times. I said it on Monday's Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman when I was on doing another 53-man roster prediction, is that the Steelers, they lost Dan Moore, they lost James Daniels. They had their replacements on the team. But the problem is you didn't have replacements for the replacements. So you've kind of got a hole with your depth. I think Spencer Anderson is a decent depth piece. I think Ryan McCollum, but I really think that some tackle depth, whether it could be, wow, Calvin Anderson's looking really good. Oh, wow, look at Dylan Cook coming on. Or, oh, look, this person's available. And the Steelers signed this person to be their depth at tackle. I don't care how it happens. I just want to see it happen.
Yeah, you kind of look through, last week during the show, I was kind of thumbing through, the depth charts on things. And you look at it and you think they might be okay. But what it is from that depth is the depth is the question mark.
Yeah.
They might get into camp and into the preseason, you realize they're fine. And you might then get into training camp in the preseason and be like, we need an upgrade.
Yeah. And I've said before that, and I'll say it again, I've said it on so many different shows, and I've said it multiple times. People are probably tired of hearing me say it, but I'll say it here in case you're listening for the first time, that they didn't need to add that depth early because I didn't want the issue to be clouded with is Mason McCormick the starter at guard? I didn't want that other depth to be added to be like, oh, do they not have faith in Troy Fautanu coming in off of injury? It can be added later because it's depth. And you didn't necessarily want to do anything to have to, quote unquote, cloud the issue. Now, it's not that competition isn't good or even upgrades if that's what you need. But my thing is, I get why they would want to just go with who they were comfortable with that was going to be their players. Basically how they ended last season, except Jones bumps to left, Fautanu comes back at right, and keeping the interior the way they finished the season last year. So, yeah. But to me, I am concerned about that depth. If Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson, I think he, by definition, is good in-game depth. Where I would get concerned is long-term having to play every snap. Because I think he's a guy that he can come in and hold it down within a game at basically any position across the line outside of left tackle. But if he has to play right tackle, going into a game, I think when teams are going to be scheming with him being there, I think that's a whole different story. So that's why I wanted to talk about the OL depth there. Hey, you ready to go ahead and take our break here and then come back and hit our last three?
Yep, that'll work.
All right, so hold on. I got to find our music and everything else. No, everything's different. It's so different. I'll get used to it eventually. Wait, that's not our show. Okay.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. So if you're with us here live, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after this break.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, we've got to relax. Don't worry. Relax. Don't worry. Sure. This is, you know what? It's the time of the off season to relax, is it, Rich?
Yes.
Yep. So that's what we're tackling, our 5 Steelers wishes between now and week 1. So far, Rich has no season-ending injuries to your rookie class like you've been eating the last few years. And number 4 is Aaron Rodgers settles in quickly. My so far is get that TJ Watt extension done and shore up the offensive line depth either through players stepping up who you have or if you have to add somebody else. All right, you ready for number 3, Rich?
Yep, number 3. Time to take the leap. And that would be the year 2 leap from the rookie class of last year. They showed such promise as a group and would like to see them, step into not the new guys in town. So.
That's all you I didn't know if you were going to talk anymore.
No, I was waiting for some sort of, response there.
No, I got you. I'm sorry. I switched to the music. I came back and was way behind on the live chat. So I'm trying to find the bottom of it. So I apologize. Seattle has 2 losses, blah, 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 all that good stuff. But this is what happens whenever you're breaking in a new system. And unfortunately, right now, we haven't figured out how to put people in timeout because we've got some of the same ridiculous trolls as we did last week, which our answer now is just going to have to be to completely ban them from our YouTube channel. So if you want to keep it up, that's what's coming. Don't want to have to do that, but for now, we don't really have anything else to do. And those that are doing it, you know who you are.
Yeah, don't have
so
anyway,
to say anything. Say that again for me one more time, Rich, because I want to make sure I didn't miss it.
It's time to take the leap. Second-year players.
Yeah, second-year player. Okay,
you don't
take
get
the
that,
leap. That's what you said.
Yeah, take the leap. That second-year leap, or if you want to say, they don't get to come in with that new car smell anymore.
Well, and not only that, with so many of them, it's like it's year 1 because they were out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't specifically have that one, but that's actually a really good one. Get those second-year guys, even though we only played 1 game, you want Fautanu to look like a second-year guy. Even though we only played 5 offensive snaps, you want Roman Wilson to look more like a second-year player. Zach Frazier, that's the big one. I'm giving him what I gave with the Joey Porter Jr. treatment before, and that is you just gave me what you gave us last year, and you're still really, really good. It's not like you have to jump through the roof. You just continue. You don't have to have a big leap or a really steep incline because you set the bar. You made that starting position really high. So that's what in there. To me, the biggest one that played significant, well, actually it's two of them. The biggest two that played significant last year about making those leaps has got to be Peyton Wilson and Mason McCormick. That if those two guys they're the main two that I would say you take that second year leap, then a lot of those question marks that you have with the Steelers are going to be answered. So, yeah. So, that's a good. I gotta. My problem is my list was in one place and I'm writing down in another place. For me, my number 3 is the Steelers need to be slotting in a slot cornerback. That's to me not just your weakest place in the secondary, that's your weakest place in the entire defense. To figure out what's going on at slot cornerback, whether it still is going to take a different player, whether it's someone like a Brandon Eccles that came in that's more of an outside guy that plays inside. I know people are still intrigued by the notion of trading for Jalen Ramsey, although I think Adam Schefter reported this morning that doesn't look like that's happening for the Steelers. So we'll see. Or, is it Beanie Bishop taking that second year jump? Because even though he wasn't drafted, he was still a rookie last year. He's a second year player. If he takes a big jump, to me, that is your weakest spot in the defense. So if you can shore up that slot corner, I think, like I said, with the depth on the offensive line, whether the guys you already have or adding another player, I would like to feel much better about that position regardless.
Understood. Not a bad place to look. I wouldn't call that position. I don't know based on the personnel that I'd call it awful, but I do understand what you mean by it is the weakest position on the defense.
Yeah.
So, got to make sure that.
I mean, yeah, because think about it. If it's the weakest part of the defense, that's what offenses are going to target.
Right.
And remember, the Steelers' defense is shaping up to be a very formidable unit. So that's like I've used this thing before. That's like being the ugliest supermodel at the fashion show. If that's what the Steelers are looking at right now. So if you wanted to say it that way, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, but it is just one of the weaker parts.
Okay, we on to number 2.
We are on to number 2.
Let me introduce you to my number 2 man.
His name.
So number 2 for me is the new contract for TJ.
Okay.
I moved it up higher on the list because I think there is a much better chance of that happening.
Gotcha. See, I just barely included it because I'm not worried about it because I feel like it's going to happen, but it just hasn't happened yet. So, what more? You didn't say much about it at the time, so take it away if you have something you want to say.
Okay, just the way it's more of a feeling with the way things have gone with it so far. TJ wasn't in for OTAs and for minicamp and this and that. And it's almost like they used that going into that last year and the contract extension as an excuse to say, hey, TJ, take a break. You're good. Yeah. You don't need you, and then something will happen and voila. And, Connell, part of me thinks that it will happen when the Steelers are wanting to make another move. They'll redo TJ's contract, give him a new contract, actually lower his cap hit for this year a little bit, which will give them some more money for another move they're wanting to make.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's part of me thinking there's a good likelihood that you could see it happen.
I know exactly what you're saying. That could happen there. I also think that if they need a little bit more cap space, the first thing would be a Pat Freiermuth restructure
Yes.
because he's the one who just signed it last year. But no, the TJ Watt would give you the most. Honestly, I have that. That they could cut it even if they're paying him over $40 million a season. That could still cut this year's number down by 8 or 9 million if they
if
want
they
to.
needed it. Yep.
Yeah. So. Yep.
But
So that's-
that's why I expect them to wait until maybe they need to make a move to do it, because why cut it down by 9 million this year if you only need 3?
Yeah.
So that's why I would
Yeah.
hold off on that deal. Don't cut it and give yourself the most cap space if it ends up being cap space that you don't use. If you're not going to use it, keep 6 million here, because that's 6 million you're going to get to put on another year of the contract. That you'll have on this for the salary cap on a different year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. That's like they have like TJ Watt. They restructured and then they went to do it again, but they didn't do it for nearly as much the second time. They only did it for what they needed or thought
Yeah.
they might need rather than for the full amount. So yeah, I got that. So
only kick the can down the road, but only kick as small a can as you can, because if you kick a big can down the road, you might hurt your foot.
yeah, and see, I was for the longest time I was like, oh, I don't like pushing down the road. Don't like pushing down the road. But the more that I've spent more time immersed in the Steelers salary cap and everything, I look at it, I'm like, you know why you kick it down the road? Because $1 this year doesn't cost as much as $1 next year. Because the salary cap goes up every year. I still know people that are like, oh, you can't pay $40 million. You can't pay $40 million. Seriously, I expect the salary cap to go up $30 million next year. Think about that. So you're not having more than 53. You're like, oh, you can just pay more money, but part of that is the base salaries go up and everything else. But still, it's not like I have to go back and crunch the numbers. But if you look at TJ Watt's percentage of the salary cap at his APY, the first year of his contract extension, and what it could be this year of that if he has a contract extension and he goes over 40, I don't even think it's as much as a percentage of the salary cap. I'd have to go back and double check it just to make sure. But I saw that somewhere. I
Well,
just
when
haven't
that-
verified it.
When that happens, Dave, I expect that story.
To see, okay, I can go back and compare that and just to see. Well, I mean, but you have to look at it from an APY average per year standpoint, because that first year is going to be less. And then the next year it's a restructure. So you can't look at the actual number. You really have to look at the average with that going on there. But yeah, I agree. That's why I had it on my list. I just didn't have it as high. I'm going to go ahead and say this one. And you're probably might be surprised that I had this at number 2. Okay. But what my number 2 is that the Pittsburgh Steelers, once again, rather that either through their own roster now or an addition, they need a bona fide number 2 wide receiver. Last year they needed one. They never really got it. This year, you're still looking at the same usual suspects. Maybe it was an issue with Calvin Austin with a Russell Wilson. Maybe a Calvin Austin with a Aaron Rodgers is a whole different story, and he actually is a wide receiver too. I'm not banking on it. I'm not saying I think it'll happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I'm also saying that it's a possibility that the Steelers go out and add somebody else. It is extremely, extremely important for them to do this. It's funny because you're like, if it's that important, why wasn't it your number 1? And you'll see why later. But that's my number 2.
It was my number 1.
Yeah, I figured it might be. So go ahead and talk about it.
My number 1 was an upgrade at wide receiver 2.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm kind of like you. If the upgrade comes from within, I'm okay. But right now, if you made me put my confidence on it coming from within, or would it be better from going elsewhere, I'm leaning on saying might look better to go elsewhere. I'm not as
Yes, me
confident.
too.
After last year, I'm not as confident that it can come from within.
I don't care how they do it. Honestly, that's why I say that. I don't care how it's done. They just need it.
Yeah.
They just need it.
Give me an
I don't
upgrade.
care. Yeah. They need a high quality wide receiver too. I think that's great. Now, there's something that I have that is one thing that's hired. Do you have any clue what I'm going to say?
Actually, no, I don't.
I'll give you a hint. I didn't talk about it exactly, but I mentioned the same kind of idea once already. My number one, because I'm saying this, that the Steelers, their success or failures this year, offensively, more than anything, is going to come down to, what do you think, Rich? My favorites, the offensive line. That the offensive line needs to gel and step up to the plate and be the real deal. If the Steelers have a real deal offensive line, you might be shocked by this. Well, probably not coming from me. I think that's more important than a wide receiver too. Their offensive line being because I wouldn't call them a minus recently, but they haven't been a plus. If they become a plus, then that's actually more important to me.
If you got through the end of the year and said this was a top 5 or a top 7 offensive line in the league, I understand what you're saying. That would make up enough.
That would cover for a multitude of sins, right?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Because especially that wide receiver too. Because if they're that good, you're giving your quarterback time to find and throw to receivers.
Yes.
Whether that be
including tight ends.
Yes, including tight ends, including running backs, they have the time and they can do that. Plus, if they're a top 5 to 7 offensive line, you're also getting a lot out of the running game, which also takes pressure off that receiving group.
Yeah.
So I do understand your thought process behind it.
Yeah, because I think that would think about it. If the Steelers can run the ball because the running backs can get to the line of scrimmage or farther before contacted, that's a good thing. If Aaron Rodgers or whoever else ends up if something happens, regardless of it's Aaron Rodgers, but if someone else even has to come in, a quarterback or whatever, regardless of who it is, if they have time to throw and make reads and not be instantly under pressure, that's going to completely change the passing game. That, to me, is the number one thing. And I also don't think it's that crazy to think. I think they have the potential pieces. They just need to not be potential. They need to be actual. You do that, and the Steelers can go a long way if they have a quality offensive line.
Well, you think about it. That really is down to my number 3. That take the leap in year 2, because you got 3 guys on the offensive line who are going to be year 2 guys.
Yeah. So in essence, you've kind of covered that one as well, based on how it goes. But to me, number one thing, if that offensive line is playing great, then unless you're dealing with catastrophic injuries everywhere else, that you're really going to see something from the Pittsburgh Steelers this year if that offensive line. That's where it starts. That's really where it is. Like, for example, today as I'm covering all these different position groups where PFF did their top 32 players going to this year, not completely based on PFF scores. They're not. It's more, it'd be no different than like a Mike Florio doing it, or notice I'm giving a bunch of examples of people with bad takes. I don't know, or CBS Sports doing it or something like that. Top 32 players at each position. It just happens to be PFF because I get their articles. But today I covered center and tackle. And the reason I covered, not center and tackle, sorry, guard and tackle. Center was the first one. Zach Frazier was number 3 on the list of centers behind Creed Humphrey and Tyler Linderbaum. So he was number 3 after one season. Really, I mean, that's going in the right direction. When I did guards and tackles, here's what was surprising. Steelers had a guard. Isaac Seumalo made the list at number 12. And he was the top guard in the AFC North. They had him ahead of both guards from the Browns. Now, they admitted that it was based more on his last average over his last 3 years.
Right.
1 in Philly, 2 in Pittsburgh. Because last year he missed the first 4 games of the season. He was never really 100%. And he still got selected to the Pro Bowl, although he had a much better year the year before, in my opinion. So, but they think a good bit of him. When it came to offensive tackles, the Steelers had none. The Bengals had none. The Browns had none. One tackle, Ronnie Stanley from the AFC North, at number 20 something, was the only tackle on the list. But then you got a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that had 2 in the top 5.
Yeah, but think about this though. There's part of a reason why the AFC North tackles aren't there.
Because they have some really good edge rushers they have to go against.
Because of the edge rushers that are in the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why they aren't
That's
there.
I didn't say that in the article. Someone should have put that in the comments. That's a really good point. It's hard to be a good tackle in the AFC North because, I mean, look, between Watt, Garrett, Hendrickson, and the Ravens are just overall good defense with putting pressure on the quarterback. Whether you're talking about Van Noy or, you don't even have to be specific with the Ravens. You just know that they're going to bring it. So that's a really good point. But, yeah. Yep. So with that, I just think that the offensive line means a lot. And I think there's room, especially in the division. I mean, think about it. Obviously, a center from every team made the list because there's only one center and there's 32 teams and 32 spots. So yes, the Browns and Bengals were on the list. I did this one last week, so I don't remember exactly where they were, but they weren't towards the top. They were much farther down. So you could say, well, the Ravens have the number 2 center and the number 20-some tackle. Well, the Steelers have the number 3 center and the number 12 guard, and all the Browns had a center way far down and 2 guards pretty decent, and the Bengals just had their center in the 20s. The Steelers have the chance to be one of the better offensive lines in the AFC North, which in turn I think would then put them in the running for more than that. I mean,
yeah,
the Eagles did what the Eagles did, and you have a feeling that that's what the Steelers are trying to emulate. So offensive line, really important. Anything else you want to say before I run down these lists again?
Nope. Run down the lists.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and why don't you run down yours for me? Run down yours.
All right. No season-ending injuries to the rookies. Rodgers gets settled in quickly. Number 3. Second-year players take a leap. 2, new contract for TJ, and number 1, an upgrade at wide receiver 2.
Yes, and for me, mine were I started off with the TJ Watt deal at number 5 just because to me it's not an if, it's when. But because it's still out there, it needs to be done. Number 4 is that the Steelers need to make sure they have quality offensive line depth, whether the players they have stepping up or finding somebody else. They need to get a good answer at the slot cornerback position. It's the weakest spot on the defense. Got to make sure you know what you're doing there. Number 2 is where I said they need a bona fide wide receiver 2. One way or the other, I don't care how they get it. I just want a good quality player there. And the number 1 is the offensive line needs to be the real deal because that is just going to trickle out to be success in other places. Sound good, bro?
Sounds good.
All right. I guess it's my week for 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk.
Yes,
And
it is.
once I get thinking about things, then I always worry that I've done them before. I just can't remember if I've done them or if I've just thought about them in the past. But this one was based on something that I actually stumbled across and shared with my wife and daughter and my son, and to see what their take on it was. And it's funny that I said that it'll make sense when I said when I want to know what their take on it was. And that is, sometimes I stumble across alternate versions of songs, whether by a different group or just done differently, whether it's acoustic or just an unplugged or whatever, by the same group. This all was set off because I heard a very recent recording. I mean, it was a live thing, and it was an unplugged version with the lead singer of Aha singing "Take on Me." And it was actually, sorry, the original song is phenomenal, but it was actually a really good version, just being different. I also think of, like, you and I both watched the show The Big Bang Theory. You have their intro song, but what they played in the final scene of the entire show of just the alternate version of that song was really good too. Can you think of any, like I said, it could be a remake by a different artist or anything else, of an alternate version of a song that you think is pretty good quality?
Okay. I have two that jump to mind for me. Okay. One is a different version by the same group,
Uh-huh.
and then one that is somebody else's take. Okay.
Okay.
First, I'll give my one that is a remake of the same group. Okay. Everybody, I'm sure, knows the song by House of Pain, "Jump Around."
Jump
You
Around.
have to. That, as I like to call it, god awful squeal.
Yeah.
If you really want to get into that, what you want to listen to, and I believe they had it on the album.
Oh, it was on the album.
Yeah,
Because you got me the album.
is the Pete Rock remix version. It's just a little more low key, and it's actually the one that I keep on my playlist. I don't keep that god awful shrill that everybody remembers on there. I actually like the second version. All right. The other one, which, Dave, I get into this kind of stuff all the time. Believe it or not, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and stuff of, hey, who did the song better, the original or the remake, kind of thing. But I also used to watch, there was on a YouTube channel, it was called the AV Club, and they would bring in B-list bands and have them do songs by, A-listers, really well-known songs. One of my favorite ones is, of course, because they're one of my favorite groups. The Wood Brothers came in with their bluegrass Americana, style, and remade Michael Jackson's PYT.
Oh, wow.
The
Did
most
they have,
awesome,
did they have the helium voice at the end as well?
No.
Probably not.
Look, I'm telling you, if you listen to it, they did a great job of putting that song into their style, and the song still being really good.
Yeah.
Like, you still knew it was a redone of a Michael Jackson, but they had their own spin on it, and it was really cool. So those are two that jump into my head right off the bat.
Yeah. Afton said this, but I scrolled past it. Kathy said, I will tell you all this.
Yes.
We only see the first word of your name on our screen. So it's really tough. Like, it took me forever to figure out that was Marky D at Steelers Nation Australia. But she said Disturbed, Sound of Silence. Because Marky D had said, hold on, why is it not showing up? Okay. Metallica playing with the San Francisco Philharmonic is who I think it was. But that's that whole album, like Unforgiven, was really good. They had another one that wasn't like one of their best songs, but with the orchestra, it was amazing. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Maybe Mark, you will. I remember it was actually, I had this on my playlist for a while. It was a song by Men at Work. Most people think that it's going to be Land Down Under or Who Can It Be Now? No, it was their song Overkill. But on an episode of Scrubs, they had the acoustic version, and it was really good acoustic version. Another one I'm going to say, people probably think I'm crazy, but Rich, you watch Marvel movies, right?
Yes, I do.
Did you watch the Black Widow movie?
Of course.
The opening credits to that movie is a different version of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yes.
And for the movie especially, I really liked it. Just because, to me, if you're going to do something, it's got to be different enough to sound pretty good like that. So that's one that I like. It's funny.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring up
If you
another
have
one.
another
Okay. Basically, the last song released by Johnny Cash was Hurt by 9 Inch Nails. And powerful song.
Yeah.
Just took their song, and again, he did it in his way, but his way also, he made the song I think he redid because it resonated with him, and because it resonated with him and he was late in life, I think it was very powerful coming from that.
Yeah, and one thing I'm glad we steered away from now that we're done our 5 minutes is there are groups out there that do nothing but remakes. That's not really what I was going for here. Like UB40, you know what I mean? They don't have original music; they just have remakes. Or I don't know that I've ever heard any original music by them. I know a lot of people like Pentatonics when they do versions of different things, but that's pretty much what they do. But I think we had some good ones out there. I was pretty happy with that. So, you ready? We're going to go ahead and get to the big question. I think everyone knows what it's going to be. It's the name of the show. It's going to be your biggest wish for the season. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. See if this actually works to send it to the live chat. Did it work? I don't know if it came out or not. I typed it and I hit send. I don't know if it actually showed up or not, but you guys are free to do that. Oh, there it did. There it did. Actually, there it says I was Jeff going to Riverside, but no, out on YouTube. I know it worked on YouTube. I don't know if we actually get Facebook comments on here. That's the only problem. I don't know. If people are commenting on Facebook and we're not bringing it up, I'll have to say I just don't know. But your biggest wish was getting that wide receiver 2. My biggest wish was the offensive line stepping up and being the real deal this year. Here we go. You have to double click these things now with me. Afton says that the offensive line gels. Kathy gels. Yep. Kathy says that Aaron has a lights out year. Aaron Rodgers. Steel Dog 88 goes with dominant running game. Okay. We're going to say Jenna trolls. I don't think Jenna was trolling on trolls. I said trolls. I can't read this very well. It's not the. Well, I'll be honest with you. For those who might not have noticed, I'm wearing new glasses, and I've now I am officially old because I'm trying to adjust to progressives.
Nice.
I really am. So sometimes I'm struggling with changing that a little bit. I'm getting much better used to it. But Jenna Toll says the 7th Super Bowl. And I had to double click these for some reason. TD Tom Dessenberger says a good wide receiver 2. Reginald also says Reginald Rivers, also says find a wide receiver 2. This is an interesting one from John Butte as well. I hope I said that right. Says that the defensive line becomes a dominant unit. That's a good one. I focused on the offensive line, but the defensive line, that's one there too. Okay. I like this one from Andre Coleman. No early and late season collapses. Start strong, finish strong.
Yeah.
Any
Kinda-
you want to, even if it's one that I moved past already? Anything
That's
that you want
kind
to
of
comment
what
on?
we talked about a little bit in terms of the peaking at the right times. Let's
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
the the strong start isn't as important as the strong finish. As I was saying,
Yeah.
2-2 in your first four, I could live with better than one of the ever famous 1-3 at the last four.
Yeah. Or 0-4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So-
The way that way. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah. I've said it so many times. I'm tired of saying it. But even when people ask me mid-season, oh, we finished week 9, halfway through the regular season of the 18 weeks. What do you think? Who's going to the Super Bowl? I always say the teams that gets hot in December. Teams that get hot in December, So as Steelers fans, we've learned that way too much, that's really one of the biggest things. So I will say this right now. I'm looking back. I don't see a single Facebook comment in what we're getting on our end. Maybe that's a setting that we have to try to adjust with things. I don't know. I want to apologize if you've been commenting on Facebook and wondering why we haven't seen it. Like I said, we're still getting used to this new platform. Some people are like, "Why'd you change?" We had to. Sorry, we didn't really have a choice with stuff.
Lord, I apologize for that right there.
There you go.
Please
We got to
bless the
apologize.
pygmies down in New Guinea.
Yeah. So there we go. So hey, make sure you're checking. Oh, we got to make sure that we say this.
Oh,
I
yes.
do not know what's going to happen next Tuesday night. I still need to meet with one Brian Anthony Davis. He had some family things going on. So that's why I haven't had a chance to meet with him. But we are going to be on our infamous Outer Banks trip next week. We will not be here Tuesday night. The plan is that there will be something here Tuesday night. There's a couple different possibilities. I don't know what it is for sure. If I know by Thursday, I'll tell you what it is on the preview of what's going to be here in our place. But Rich and I, once again, in a house with no Wi-Fi. Yes, those actually exist. Shockingly. So we will not be able to be joining you all next. That's the one time of the year that neither of us are here. We'll be together. We just won't be on the show. That's just how it goes. I'm gonna bring this up.
Yep.
Marky D, Steelers Nation Australia, which, by the way, we didn't have a Marky D show today because poor Marky D's here. He lost his voice.
You can still type, though.
Yeah, he's still tight, but he had lost his voice, so he should be back next week. But Marky D says, I wish the Steelers to play physical and competitive as they always do. So other people were just saying to have a good trip and things of that nature. So I think that was the last one. But yeah, so it won't be your regular Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It'll be something, I don't know, unless Bad tries to copy
I'm
me.
going to say, Brian, can probably pull that off.
But then you're going to have the Scho Bros. It should be the two of us for the most part. I know sometimes some things pop up if one of us has something. Hey, if we're gonna miss, it's the summertime. That's generally when we do. But other than that, that'll be a little bit different. This is just that time of year. I'm not sure if there's going to be a Steel City Insider this week because of Jim being away. Because I mean, my goodness, he's got to take a vacation when the team's on vacation. It's just kind of how it works. So that we're still not sure about. But other than that, we should be here for our YouTube shows the rest of the week. As I say, something else should be here next week. Have a happy 4th of July. We want to go ahead and say that because we're going to be gone for that. But I hope everyone else. I say that, but then I'm reminded that we got Steelers Nation Australia here, where it's not necessarily everyone in the United States that would be celebrating there. So make sure you're checking out SteelCurtNetwork.com. Jeff and I are doing our 30 scenarios in 30 days. We've got plenty of other stuff. KT Smith keeps knocking it out of the park with everything that he does there. If nothing else, come and read his stuff. If you don't want to read mine, but you're going to come read KT. I understand that because I I turn to him for a lot of things when it comes to the knowledge. So just make sure you're checking it out there. So, Rich, what do you have to say to close us out tonight?
Hey, everybody. I know it's the off season. I know it's that boring time, but believe it or not, we'll be talking preseason before you know it. Time to get in, pull out all the Steelers gear, make sure you're dusting it off, see what's good, see where you need to make your Steelers gear upgrade. Make your upgrades and get ready for the season coming up. I know we'll be. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.